Hello, I'm Christina with The Turned Leg. I love to salvage, repurpose, and create and help others to do the same. And I'm sitting in my junk garden and I have a project planned. Maybe if you've seen my previous videos, you've seen I have actually a really cool porch area off the side of my garage. Well, it needs a makeover. This was the porch of my junk garden back in June of 2021. If you want the full tour of my junk garden, you can click on the link to the video above. And the glider that is shown there was my great-grandmother's, and many of the other pieces I have found as curbside treasures. Now, I have made one change, and that was giving the glider a brand new coat of paint, just using spray paint so that it can last another 100 years. I also purchased some brand new cushions for it. But the problem I had was that everything was looking a little run down and the floor really was worn out. I moved into my house over 10 years ago, and I think I painted the floor around the same time. And I really didn't seal it all that well. The first step was to clear the porch of absolutely everything to get it ready for power washing so that I can put a new coat of paint on the floor. Power washing is an important step, not only to clean the floor to prep it for paint, but to remove any previous paint on the surface. And there was a lot to remove. While I was power washing, I also decided to power wash the siding to make it look like brand new because it was filthy. Time to let everything dry completely. My original plan for this floor was to not only repaint it, but to stencil it. But my plans changed and I ended up giving the porch an entire makeover. Stay tuned to the end of the video to see the big reveal. But before adding paint, the next step was to patch any of the holes. I was using a concrete sealer to just fill in holes and divots wherever I saw them. While waiting for everything to dry, I spent some time playing with our new puppy, George. When everything was dried and cured, it was time for paint. I was going to be rolling on some Glidden porch and floor paint in a dark gray. And my porch was created a long time ago. I actually found a name and a date on my porch while I was painting it over. So I think it was done by hand. There are a lot more divots than I ever could have patched without skim coating the whole piece, but I think the paint is really going to make a big difference. My porch space did need 2 coats of paint, and because it was such an uneven surface, I think it took a little bit more than most projects. I did use the entire gallon of porch paint. When I moved all of the furniture off of my porch area to clear it for painting, I discovered that this piece, which I had found junking 2 years ago in the trash, was completely rotted out and it needed to be replaced and or fixed. Since I'm not a carpenter, I decided I would look for a replacement piece, and I was so lucky the next day to find this adorable table as a curbside treasure that would work perfectly. If you didn't already see the video where I made this little table over, you can click on the link above. The porch paint was dry and it was time to look it over. And when I did, I noticed I had a big problem. I had weird little blisters that had formed, and they were everywhere, and the longer I watched, the more that appeared. My first thought was maybe scrape them out and paint over, and really nothing worked. I'm learning, don't fight it. Sometimes you do projects and they just don't work out. So instead of trying to make it work, which is what's going on with the porch behind me, the floor is just a hot mess. I'm a bit of a hot mess. I'm trying to catch some shade right now. Instead of pushing ahead, I'm going to change plans because you know what? I don't want to stencil as much as I want to decorate. So I decided to do a little stress relief and play with George and also plan my next steps. I figured I would leave the porch floor as it was. If it really became an issue, I would figure that out at a later time or put down a carpet, but I wanted to redecorate the space. So the first place I started was the door. I grabbed my DIY paints. DIY paint is clay-based all-natural paint. You can use it outside, but you will need to use a sealer that will hold up. For more information on how to paint a door with DIY paint, you can click on the link to the video above. I decided to use DIY paint in the color of mermaid tail. All I needed was 2 coats, and then I sealed it in DIY Big Top. The next step was to remove all of the items that were hanging up and change some up, remove some and get some new ones. Remember when I found that cute little garden table while I was out junking? I also found a few other items curbside, and one would be perfect for the porch. All I had to do was hang it with a few outdoor screws and add a few things to it. Probably some fresh plants will be added a little bit later. And next, I turned my attention to the ceiling. It was time for an update. I also added some of my favorite outdoor solar lights. Links for all of the items that I purchased for my porch will be included in the description below. When I think of a summer porch, I always think of curtains, so I decided I would hang some on my own porch. These were just sitting in my basement. I also found an old curtain rod and some old hooks to hold up the rod. I paid absolutely nothing for these, and I love the look. Why didn't I do it sooner? Not every project goes as planned, and sometimes that's for the better. Don't fight it, because they usually turn out better than expected. Although I will have to address the floor in the future, I'm just enjoying my porch this summer. I love what I've done. I know it's a little sparse, but I'm really good at finding stuff, so I'll be adding to it throughout the summer, and we'll make it an absolute perfect space. Let's take a look at how it turned out. Here is the before picture. Keep in mind this is from 2 years ago, so over that time many things had faded and just overall worn out. Time for a refresh. And here is the after. I do like the change in colors. I think it's a little bit more relaxing. The curtains are absolutely fabulous, and I can close them when the sun is coming in and keep the porch area nice and cool. I did have this coat rack that I upcycled from an old fence from before. You can check out a YouTube video to see how I made it. I love my old shutters. I love the new garden table. Perfect addition. My great-grandmother's swing is looking pretty stylish now with its new coat of paint. I kept the no vacancy sign. There's a YouTube video on how I made that. And I love the vintage thermometer. It's always good to find out the temperature outside. The new shelf with my handmade signs and some greenery really worked out nice. I know this space is simple, but throughout the summer we will add to it. My frogs got a fresh coat of paint just to help them last a little bit longer. They were rusting. Another vintage shutter, and of course a little spot to put your drinks, which was painted in the same color, and mermaid tail on the door made a big difference. But the most important thing about a porch is the view, and I love that I can sit on my newly decorated porch, listen to the birds chirp, and get to enjoy my junk garden. Remember that solar lighting I installed? Check out how my porch looks at night. I think this porch is going to get a lot of use this summer. Thank you so much for watching this video. Remember, if you want to see more of my junk garden, there's an entire playlist. Now get out there to salvage, repurpose, and create.